What do you guys think this is? We've already had the Z9 here. We've had the Z8. There are 2 new camera bodies that Nikon has come out with recently, both of which I want to review and check out. So we've either got the Z6III here, or we've got the Z6II here, or the P1100. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll. We've got the Nikon Z6III. But also, they sent a little extra here, guys. The Nikon Z24-70 f2.8. Nice to see this lens again. This is a beast of a lens. Get me. Okay, let's go ahead and open the Z6III. So take this out of the box. Let's do the camera first, and then we'll do the lens. They've got some new warnings on their boxes. Let's go ahead and just examine this thing real quick. Ooh, things are moving around here. Ooh. Ah. Z6III. And so what's cool about this is the timing, okay? Because I just got the ZF. The Z6III is pretty much like the parallel to the ZF. This is the professional body. The ZF is more of like, you know, the love letter to Nikon, you know, ode to Nikon, still packet full of like industry leading features. But if you're really going for like a professional body, the Z6III is the one. So now I get to compare both. Exactly, Alexa. So the timing works out perfect. I'm going to be able to, I'm going to have this till the end of May, and I've got some weddings coming up. So I'm definitely going to be able to use this for weddings as well as the ZF, and we'll get some good comparisons in. And if I'm going to put out a very early prediction on it, I'm probably not going to be able to notice the difference. Enough talking. Let's open up the box. Just for you. All right. All the usual stuff here. The manual, flyers, advertisements. Put that off to the side. Camera strap, we'll leave that in here. We've got the battery. And then we've got this cable holder, as well as the actual Nikon cable. KEH. Sent me a Canon one. So funny. Okay. So interesting. This is just the body. This isn't the kit. Which is probably the reason why they sent me the 24-70. Let's go ahead and take the body out. And we'll remove the box. Give you full effect here. Whoops. All right. Oh, buddy, here we go. The Nikon Z6III. My initial first impression, it feels a little beefier. It has a Z8 quality to it. It feels more boxy and a little bit beefier than my Z6II, that's for sure. All right, let me brighten it up a little bit here. Okay. So you can see there, it's, man, it is clean. Brand new. Yeah, it feels a little bit beefier. as far as like the thickness goes. Awesome. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. Got a new illumination light here. ZF is prettier. 100%. All right, let's go ahead and flip open the LCD. Very angle screen. Ooh, it still has the plastic on there. We're going to have to take that off. Battery cover. Nice. All right, and then the CF Express Type B slot and SD dual memory card slot there. All right, first comparison. We're going to grab the Z6II. We've got the Z6II here on the right, the Z6III on the left. Let me zoom on in here real quick. And let's turn up the brightness on my lights as well. Okay, so more square, more rectangle. Z6III also has this illumination button. You press it and then it illuminates. I don't know if you saw it, but you can definitely see it in person. Maybe if I turn off all my lights. There we go. So the Z6II is always like this. It's always constantly this type of illumination. The Z6III, the Z6III is on. You can't see the LCD screen at all in the dark. If you press the illumination button, now it turns on. So I'm sure that's just a battery saving option. Now, if I turn them, that's a good question. Cyronius. So I'm flipping the Z6II over. I'm flipping the Z6III over. So Z6III is on the right. I'm going to press the illumination button. Hold on. So the illumination button does not illuminate any other buttons. It just brightens the LCD screen in the back as well as the top LCD screen. It does look a little taller. Now, the main camera body, it's a little bit taller, but this part right here, this portion of the camera, it's raised higher. So the camera, they're about the same size height-wise, but where the grip is, this feels like it's heightened a bit. That's why I was saying, like right off the bat, it has this boxy feel that the Z8 has. So we're going to be able to see it when I turn it. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that. The lighting is kind of, I wish I had a light from the front, but this part is raised up a little bit higher than this is. And maybe that's a really good thing because, again, when you're gripping it, when you've got like a higher grip, your hand is able to more naturally grip on with the Z6III. So that's cool. The logo is larger. Yes, the logo is there. Okay, moving on. Let's kind of flip it this way. That's all the same there. Dials are all the same. Viewfinder option button there. The little viewfinder adjustment wheel. Dude, my Z6II needs to be cleaned so bad. Okay. All right, so that is that. And then also the Z6III, we've got this exposure compensation button moved closer. This one is off to the side. So like when I'm shooting, I've got record, ISO, compensation right there, all in a row. And then the Z6II, record, ISO, no. So I think that's a good move. They moved the exposure compensation from this location over. Yeah, now that I'm feeling it, it is kind of a nuisance to kind of go all the way down on the Z6II, whereas the Z6III. Okay, we're slowly taking our time examining the bodies of these two cameras. All right, let's go ahead and flip these over. Another big difference. So the Z6II has this tilting LCD screen, which is something that I got really used to. I actually really liked it. Especially like when you're shooting, it's just all discreet. It's all right here to your body, not really to anyone else. And it's not flipping out this way. I used to swear by this, and I still enjoy the tilting screen. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great. No, this one's from Nikon. They're letting me review it for a couple months. So that's the Z6II. The Z6III, you've got this fully articulating vari-angle LCD screen. So this one comes all the way out. And this was a decision that they made, and I think it was a smart decision because videography, video creators, the vari-angle LCD screen is a lot more useful than the tilting LCD screen. So there you go. Let's maybe do that. Maybe zoom this out a little bit as well. Your tilting LCD screen, everything is right here. It's very discreet to your body. You don't have to worry about it. This one, I have gotten used to the vari-angle LCD screen, and that's because of the ZF. So I have the ZF to thank for that. But you know, it just takes a little bit to do that. Just flip it in. Now you have your LCD screen at you. But you know, if you want to bring it in to you, then you have that. I do use this quite a bit when I need to see the low angles or the high angles and stuff. So definitely prefer that vari-angle LCD screen now versus before with the flip up. So it's cool to see the evolution there. As far as button layout goes, it looks like everything is pretty spot on. Everything is the same. We've got the two buttons on the left side. It looks like this also functions as a lock button. You can see at the left here. There's a lock here on the Z6II. It doesn't have that. The play button actually moved. So this is the old Z6II. The play button's here, and that has moved down here. So this button has moved up here. As you can see, the Z6III, the LCD does articulate as well when you rotate your camera. So if you're shooting vertical, you can see all the stats and everything now have shifted to vertical. So you can read it more normal versus the Z6II. When you're shooting with it, when you flip it, it all stays like this. So that's one thing that the Z6III kind of took from the Z8 and Z9 Pro bodies. Cool. All right, let's keep going. So play button has shifted. So how does that affect when you're shooting? The Z50 was really good with its button layout. I really enjoyed where the Z50 had its play button and its delete button. For me, I prefer having all my useful buttons on this right side where my thumb can access. For me personally, you know, I think that you could probably even move this I button over here on the left side just so that you have delete. Like you put the menu here, put delete down here, and then the play button there. And then you have everything accessible on the right side. The I button, it's okay right here, but you also have an I function button here, which I tend to use a ton when I'm using the touchscreen. So if it were me, Nikon, I would move the I button on your next body there, and then I'd move delete down here. That way you have access to everything with your right hand. You even have access to the I menu right there as well. You know what I mean? Like your right thumb can access that. So to me, it's kind of redundant to have two I menus. in the same vicinity when the delete trash can could just be moved over here. Z6III, Z6II. So headphones is on the top, microphones on the bottom. On the Z6III, we've got the mic on top and then the headphones on bottom. I wonder why they switched it. I wonder if it's just convenience to have the mic port on top. Yeah, covers are pretty much the same. And then you have, of course, you have USB-C. USB-C at the top. The Z6III actually has full-size HDMI versus the Z6II, which is HDMI mini. And then you've got the remote ports down there. Z6II has the logo for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and the Z6III does not. And then you also have the charging LED right there at the top. Z6III is a little bit more pronounced, or maybe it's just because my Z6II is dirty. Probably because of that. You can already see the size difference on the front. Like I told you, maybe the camera height is the same, but the this part, this width, it's a little bit taller here versus the Z6II. So you have a little bit taller grip. It seems like the same depth as far as the grip goes. Same function buttons there. Lens release. And then looking at the front here, look at the Nikon logo. It's much bigger and pronounced on the Z6III than it is on the Z6II. So already just looking at the body, let's look at the underside just for fun. There's the underside, and you can see how thick it is now. You can really see how thick the Z6III is compared to the Z6II. Just slightly. Z6III is here on the left, Z6II on the right. So just on body alone, when you're upgrading from the Z6II to the Z6III, you're getting an upgrade in button layout, much more convenient for your right side, your right hand, having access to the play button, having access to the exposure compensation up there, illumination button. And then it just, the camera body feels more solid. A good professional body here, the Z6III. I'm actually really impressed. Not gonna lie. I told you guys how much I love the ZF and the reason why I went with the ZF. But man, this Z6III, I would be happy with the upgrade. Just like already the body is nice. I usually have everything on the screen deactivated so it doesn't distract my view. If I need the grid to check levels, I use the I button in between to check quickly. Interesting. I'm like super into all the displays, all the options on my things like that. Yeah. Just to compare on paper, I do want to pull this up and I want to look at this with you real quick. So the reason to choose Z6III over Z6II. So we've got raw internal video recording versus the Z6II's high video quality. Z6III has a stacked sensor, which enables higher sensor readout and less rolling shutter. The Z6II does not. Z6III has a higher video recording limit. The Z6II could only record up to 30 minutes at a time. Z6III has the ability to go beyond that. The Z6III also has no crop at 4K 60, whereas the Z6II does have the 1.50 times crop. We also have pre-buffer shooting with the Z6III. So when you enable that and you have your finger on the shutter, it actually records a burst of shots before you fully compress the shutter button on the Z6III. So for those bird photographers who need to capture split-second moments, having this feature is pretty big. Never really needed it, though, because I haven't shot like action and stuff in a while, or birds. And then, of course, the image processor, the Z6III has the newer X-Speed 7 versus the Z6II's dual X-Speed 6. Z6III, native ISO, 64,000, being able to reach up to 64,000 native. And then Z6II is at 5100. So there's that. It's expanded on the ISO. Number of focus points, there's a little bit more on the Z6III versus the Z6II. Maximum electronic shutter, you can go up to 16 thousandths of a second versus Z6II is only 1/8,000th. Continuous shooting, Z6III can shoot up to 20 frames per second raw, whereas the Z6II is only 14 frames per second raw. And then viewfinder resolution, Z6III much higher resolution, so about 50% higher. And then let's see here, max resolution. So this goes beyond 4K on the Z6III. All right, we got the full HDMI port. You have the vari-angle LCD on the Z6III. Z6III also has pixel shift. And then also the Z6III's low light capability of being able to autofocus in low light, -10 stops versus Z6II's -4.5. So this is massive here. Z6III is amazing low light quality. Also, different tracking modes. So you've got vehicle tracking, insect, a lot better autofocusing, very reminiscent to the Z8, Z9 on the Z6III versus the Z6II. And then the Z6II is just a little bit lighter, 55 grams lighter. It says on paper battery life is better on the Z6II. That's probably why they put that illumination button to save battery. There you go. On paper, the Z6III offers actually a lot of upgrades, especially in the video department for you. You're getting faster frames per second, faster electronic shutter speeds. You're getting better low light quality, more focus points, better image processor. So the Z6III in every single way is a big upgrade to the Z6II. So I think anyone that's going from the Z6II to the Z6III, you're going to be happy with internally and externally with the body. So pretty cool, actually. I'm really happy that Nikon sent this and I get to check it out. Aaron, did you make the right choice? We've got the new Z6III here, and then we've got the used Nikon ZF that I purchased from KEH.com. Let me zoom out real quick. There we go. Z6III ZF. Did I make the correct choice, ladies and gentlemen? Let's look at the body here. So Z6III ZF on the front, illumination lights, lens release buttons. We've got this button. So this button down here, let me see. So this is a shortcut button down here. Even though it's not labeled function 1, function 2, Z6III, you get 2 function buttons. ZF, you only get 1. And right now it's set to white balance, but I can set it to any other kind of function I want, which is fine. And then that's it. And then you've got the shutter dial. The Z6III shutter dial, much bigger and expansive versus the ZF's much more smaller, minimal, compact. And then, of course, the big difference here, this massive, deep grip of the Z6III versus the ZF, where you just got this little shallow bit. So I did have to buy the small rig grip, and it was $35 on top of it. So we'll see how that goes when it arrives. All right. Looking at the top of these two cameras, let's zoom in now. There you go. Looking at the top. So we've got exposure compensation dial right here versus the actual button. Shutter button there, record button there, ISO's here. ISO dial on the ZF is here. We've got shutter button, shutter dial here, whereas you use this on the Z6III to change the shutter. Then we've got the aperture window here to tell you what your aperture's at, whereas you've got this full-on big display screen. And then on the left side here, manual, aperture, shutter priority, program, and auto mode selection. Whereas the Z6III, you've got this dial here to select. And you've also got user programmable settings here. So when Nikon talks about a professional body, this is what we're saying, is you have an LCD screen to display a lot of information for you. You've got a mode dial that not only has the main modes, but also 3 different user settings that you can customize to whatever you want. As a professional, this is something that I use as well. Like I shoot normally at a venue every week, and I set U1. So like if I have other people grabbing my camera and needing to use it, then I just tell them U1 is for indoors, U2 is for outdoors, and then it helps them if they're not super well versed in photography. The ZF is a lot more specified and shown lots of love. The ZF is a labor of love. You've got these beautiful brass dials here being able to give you hands-on experience with the camera, deeper than you would normally get from a professional model where, you know, everything's electronic being done for you. So let's talk about the ZF real quick. And one of the things that I loved about shooting with this camera is when I'm shooting and I'm changing, let's set it to manual mode here real quick. Oh, it is. Okay. So when I'm changing my shutter, I can actually change my shutter and my ISO at the same time. And this is something that I found myself doing a lot when I started shooting with the ZF, is I found myself being able to change the shutter and ISO at the same time. And then I'm able to press the shutter button right away and get my shot. I don't know. I just found it really fun and intuitive and fun to use. You've got the Z6III, and you really can't do that because this is the aperture dial up here, and this is the shutter speed dial. And so when you're changing your shutter speed, if you want to change your ISO, you have to hold the ISO button down and then do that. And so now your shutter button has become, I guess maybe, I don't know if you could program your aperture to a shutter, but then you don't want to do that because then you lose access to aperture. So you really can't do that with the pro bodies. The ZF, a lot more immersive experience here. But yeah, just the dials, they feel so good. They're so fun. On the shutter dial, I don't really change the shutter dial. I don't need to because I have the shutter button here on the back. There's that. And then the exposure compensation, it is annoying sometimes though, to be honest. Sometimes when I first started using the ZF, I would think that this was the shutter speed and I would accidentally bump it and then it would change the setting here. But yeah, so that's kind of the big difference there on top. All right, now let's look at the side and look at accessibility here. So big difference on connectivity. You've got USB-C on the ZF there. And then we've got microphone port, headphone monitoring, and then this is micro USB display. So Z6III having much more robust connectivity with the full HDMI port there. And then you have kind of like a whole separate column for your mic and headphone, where they moved the microphone port up, which I think they did that for convenience because sometimes these microphones only have like a limited amount of length on their wire in different configurations. Not saying like microphones can't reach it. It's just when you're working with a cage, sometimes you place your microphone in a spot where it's just kind of really stretching and struggling to get to where the port is. So let's go ahead and flip these cameras over and we're going to look at the backs of them. So look how bust up my Z6II viewfinder thing is. Look at this. It's all falling apart. This is the second rubber piece for this eye cap that I bought for the Z6II, and it's punctured, it's broken, it's all coming apart. And then one thing too about these viewfinders is that the sensor up here, when this rubber gets saggy, it blocks the viewfinder, it blocks the sensor, so it engages the viewfinder. Not a good design in my opinion. The viewfinder on the Z6II was, yeah, it struggled a bit after a while. Started getting punctured and saggy and stuff. So the Z6III, Z6II pretty much looks the same. So I'm curious to see how the Z6III's rubber piece is going to perform. It feels more sturdy, and that might be because it's brand new. Who knows? After throwing it in my bag in and out and stuff, it might get saggy again. But that's the only thing. I wonder if they put the sensor down at the bottom the next time around, just so that doesn't trigger. But the ZF, you can see here, we've got a round eye port, which reminds me of, this beauty. My D4S got the round viewfinder there. So got a little love there to the D4. The rubber piece is a little bit more tight and solid to the viewfinder versus the Z6III, where it kind of overlaps and overhangs. So I don't really see the ZF being a problem or a nuisance, getting loose and then kind of activating this sensor there for the viewfinder. So I do like that. And then you do have the viewfinder option button there on the left side, and then also on the ZF there, and then the adjustment for the viewfinder there. Okay, let's look at the button layout. So ZF, we've got, just like the Z6II, we've got the play, the review button, and then the delete button all the way here on the left side. Very pronounced, very specific as to why they want it there. And then we've got the AE lock, I button, display menu, and then zoom in, zoom out. Very basic here on the back of the ZF. The Z6III, we've got a full-on toggle here. We've got the I button, the play button down here, the menu, and then shutter button. And so this is kind of the thing, is like on the Z6III, we don't have the release mode button here to select. The ZF doesn't have it. And like, I can live without that release mode button. So goes to show we don't really need that. And then also the ZF. So the cool thing about the ZF, and I think the Z6III also has this feature, but the ZF, just because it doesn't have the toggle, that's fine. You do have this directional pad, but usually when you're using the toggle, you can use it to change your focus point, which is fine. But the ZF has a touchscreen focus where you just touch on the screen and it'll move the focus point inside your viewfinder or wherever the camera's focusing on. So you don't really need the toggle either. So the stripped down backing of the ZF, although it doesn't have like release mode, the toggle, you don't really need those because the ZF compensates in other ways with other methods and stuff like that. So there also is a lock button, which is assigned here, just like the lock button is assigned here for the Z6III. Awesome. Both of these sporting that wonderful vari-angle LCD screen. Let's flip both of these out. The Z6III is much stiffer and harder to release. And then, of course, you've got the Z6III's access to memory cards here, which is actually really convenient and nice. The ZF does not. You've got to access your memory cards down here, which is only micro SD and then regular SD, and then your camera battery down there, which both of these cameras use the same batteries. And then the threading option is pretty much the same down there. As far as thickness goes, they're more similar in thickness than the Z6II is to the Z6III. So nice. And I think that's it. Yeah, again, you have that real pronounced thumb rest there, which is really nice and convenient for one-handed shooters, whereas the ZF is just flat. And you're going to be doing like gymnastics and ninja finger gripping here. So that'll all change once my stuff comes in. So I do have a grip coming in from Small Rig. It'll attach at the bottom, have a grip that is pretty deep right there. And then I also ordered this wood piece that I'm going to put some adhesive on and attach here. And it will provide a nice little thumb grip for me. So customize this ZF out. So what am I intending to use the ZF mainly for? I'm intending to use this ZF for the next, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years as my main workhorse camera. This is going to be my main photography camera, replacing my Z6II. So as far as specs go, these are very, very similar, and we're about to dive into the specs on the computer, and I'll show you the differences, and we'll look at the quality of image. And then we'll kind of get down to the reason as to why I went with the ZF over the Z6III. Again, these are just like rough tech specs. Nothing really compares to real world comparisons. All right. Okay, here we go. Z6III over the ZF. So the Z6III has raw video recording internally versus the ZF, which doesn't. And then to me, I'm not really big into that kind of stuff. So that was not a determining factor as to purchasing my next camera. So, but that is something to be aware of. Stacked sensor. So the Z6III does have a stacked sensor. The ZF doesn't. You get higher sensor readouts, less rolling shutter with the Z6III. Also, no crop at 4K 60 with the Z6III. The ZF does have that 1.5 crop. So that is something for me to be aware when I'm shooting in 4K. Z6III also has more focus points than the ZF. And then continuous shooting, the Z6III 5 frames per second faster. The ZF, not as high quality in the viewfinder resolution as the Z6III. And then the Z6III also has, I believe it's 6K. Shoots 6K versus the ZF 4K. The Z6III also has the top LCD screen and then that full size HDMI port. So really, and then of course, CF Express. So again, when you're talking about professional camera, CF Express card support, full size HDMI, top down LCD screen, better video quality. The Z6III is huge upgrade, but still those are not things that like I have to have. Really nothing for a ZF over the Z6III other than that it's cheaper and it's lighter. But the common strengths of both of these cameras, they both have pixel shift, both have the vari-angle LCD screen, focus bracketing, dual access, whatever, smart storage slot to thing. So minimum focus sensitivity. So both of these are monsters in low light, -10 stops on low light focusing. So that is massive. I'll say this as like my conclusion between the Z6III and the ZF, just impression wise, right off the bat, the main reason why I chose the ZF over Z6III was the body, being able to physically manipulate the ISO dials, shutter speed at the same time. Also black and white mode, being able to shoot in black and white mode just as easy. Low profile body, exceptional photo quality, the physical dials manipulation, the black and white mode. Also the price, it's really, really priced well. It's an exceptional full frame camera and I love the style of this. So that's ultimately why I chose to go with this over the Z6III. And not to knock, I'm not knocking on the Z6III at all. Really, really nice. My first impressions with it, hands-on. I like the beefier body. It has a nicer grip. It feels more sturdy in my hand when I'm one-handed. If I'm one-handed shooting, I like the updates to the button layouts. I like the vari-angle LCD screen. I don't know, there's just something about this Z6 III that I really love. And I'm like thinking in the back of my head, I need to buy it. I'm like, as much as I love my Z6 II as a backup, and it's going to be a very worthy backup, just like how my Z5 is a good camera. The Z6 II is great. You know, I need to send this in for some TLC. Very worthy backup, the Z6 II. I feel like I'm missing out not having the Z6 III. It reminds me so much of the Z8 and how much bigger the Z8 body is. So we'll see. I've got the Z6 III for the next 3-4 months. We'll be using this at a lot of photo shoots coming up, a lot of weddings I've got. This ZF is mine forever. We are one. So I'll definitely be using this as my main workhorse. The Z6 III will be my backup. I'll also do some shoots exclusively with the Z6 III to really try it out and give it a good, put it through its paces, give it a good shaking. So yeah, in 3-4 months, we'll have a lot of fun with these, and then hopefully be able to put out like a final, you know, comparison. Z6 III, ZF, what would you kind of choose? But this is my initial impression, my initial thoughts and opinions. And I'm just super grateful, super happy that I have the ability to play with both of these cameras. Huge thank you to Nikon for sending out the Z6 III. I'm really excited to try this out. Review video will be coming out very soon using the ZF last year. So be on the lookout for the ZF review video. But Nikon, thank you so much for sending out the Z6 III. Really looking forward to spending the next couple months with it, shooting it over here in the beautiful island of Maui. Got plenty different weddings and stuff to use this amazing camera, this piece of technology with. So really appreciate it. And my community also, to be able to hang out and check out these two cameras today, it was really fun.